Oh, yeah? Well, me and the Lord, we got an understanding. We're on a mission from God.
Well, good morning, good people, and Eagle and 49er fans. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. We got Joe Boo in the house, as well as Bucky. Bucky's in the house. And as always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell notification because we are in July now, people. July. This is moving month. This is when things move out of low gear, switched into high gear because training camp, less than 3 weeks from today, actually 3 weeks from today, the Dallas Cowboys will be on the field for their very first practice, having already been tucked in twice in training camp, and all of this mindless minutia and bullshit that we've been listening to is done. It's over. It's out of here. We don't have to listen to it, hear about it. It will be real shit on the field. And I can't wait. We've got the anticipation where we started out with Brian Schottenheimer fell off the salad truck. The Cowboys hired a nobody. Nobody wanted. They got the redheaded stepchild as a head coach, and he's going to be one and done. Two, a little bit of excitement as they started putting together a staff. A little bit more excitement as they started breaking the plates with Brian Schottenheimer with his quarterbacks, opieing, Greek dancing. And then, of course, there is the famous now shoddy drink. Even the Micah Parsons calling everybody to make sure that they're okay. We got Dak Prescott healthy and looking like fat cells go to die in his body. We got Micah Parsons becoming the not holdout guy. He's changing the shit up. He ain't been paid, but he ain't holding out. He's actually more like Dak Prescott because it literally just smacked me in the face. Because when you think about Zeke held out. He's like, screw this. I ain't doing nothing. I'm going to go to Cabo. I'm going to run on the beach till I get my contract. D-Law, I'm not getting my shoulder worked on till I get my contract. Until you pay me, I don't care if I'm not ready for the season. I don't care. I just want my money. Right? Zach Martin, hey, love you guys. Love you. But it's about the money, and my time's getting shorter. Dak Prescott, he never held out. Got franchise tagged twice. Had to wait till opening day. What if Dak Prescott held out? I guess it wouldn't matter because he got injured last year. Micah Parsons has taken a cue from Dak Prescott. Here's where where it makes sense. Oh my God. This is eye-opening. Because instead of Dak Prescott could have done what everybody else does. I'm not showing up. I'm not working out. Like Russell Wilson literally said, get me a new contract by April 15th or I'll never sign another contract with you. He put him on blast and got the shit done. Dak Prescott, hey, my people going to handle it. I ain't worried about it. And he got the highest contract in the history of football by being patient. A contract that a year later still has not been beaten. Now, here's the way you could look at this. Flip side, CeeDee Lamb missed out on OTAs. Might have been like, hey, great, I ain't got to practice in training camp and stuff. Although he said he missed being there with his guys. He held out, right? He got his money before Dak did, but he wasn't the highest non-paid player. Justin Jefferson had that. So if you're Micah Parsons, you look at it and say, CeeDee Lamb held out, missed training camp, and wasn't necessarily in football shape to start the season. Wasn't the highest paid, right? Dak Prescott, he didn't hold out. He was working with the team, and it didn't affect the team, and he's still the highest paid. So if you are put with those two options, which one do you take? Literally, this shit just right out of my head. It just, the clarity just happened. If you're Micah Parsons and you look at that and say, they took care of Dak. He ended up being the leader in the locker room. He didn't do anything that hurt the team. He's still the highest paid. Why don't I do the same thing? I don't want to hurt the team. I know I'm going to get paid. I can be there. I can get my money, and I can be in a position to be able to win. Because ultimately, I think the money is always going to be there. Micah knows he will get paid. Even if the Dallas Cowboys don't give him a new contract, he's still got $25 million this year. He's the president of Bleacher Report. And if the Cowboys decide they don't want to pay him, the franchise tag would be through the roof. Or he can become a free agent and make a boatload of money. So he knows he's going to get paid. The thing that you actually have to worry about, where there's a question, is, will we win? And the best thing I can do for us to win is to be there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's the truth, Roof. And all of that stuff literally just hit me right now. And that's maybe the real reason why Micah Parsons won't hold out. He's taking an example from Dak. And you can also look and say, he's taking an example from Dak as far as working with his teammates and being a leader. And the team is in a better position because of it. So, yeah, I like that. Okay. Yeah, that's a good way to start the morning. So while we're sitting here, we've got time to wait. The Dallas Morning News, shout out to the Dallas Morning News. I actually have a subscription to it and hardly actually go to it. It's so lack of it that when I clicked on the article, it goes to Dallas Morning News and says, you got to start an account. And it's like, I think I have an account because I see it taken out on my PayPal every month. And I click on it and don't know the password. But it says, you already have an account. It's like, I thought I did, but I don't even know the password. That's how infrequent I lose. We all lose a lot of money on different things that we have, subscriptions that we don't use. This would be a great time if, like, one of those companies came to me and said, hey, why don't we sponsor you to help people save money by cleaning it up by using our app? I probably need to do that because I'm sure I got a lot of things I'm paying for, like Paramount TV and Piedmont TV, because I wanted to see one freaking football game. All right. The Dallas Morning News, they have an article about Caden Adams, our offensive coordinator. Now, Caden Adams is kind of doing what Brian Schottenheimer did. Now, Brian Schottenheimer came here originally as a quality control guy to work with Mike McCarthy. He became the offensive coordinator, but wasn't the play caller because Mike McCarthy kept that to himself. So that's where we have plausible deniability on what Brian Schottenheimer will do, because he wasn't the one calling the plays. That was, again, Mike McCarthy. Caden Adams is the offensive coordinator, and as far as we know at the moment, Brian Schottenheimer, Shotty Shots, is calling the plays. So let's go through this article, shall we? Though Adams isn't expected to be the Cowboys' play caller, he presumably takes over several other aspects of the Dallas offense. Here are 5 things to know. Now this is what's funny is as I started reading this thing, it starts with number 2. I see 2. I don't see, then it should be a 6, or they lost one. Resume. Adams has been coaching for 2 decades between college and pro football and has slowly worked his way up the ladder, moving to a lot different stops and getting several promotions. He started at Boise State as an undergrad in 2005. Then he was an offensive line position at Western Washington, Sacramento State, San Jose. Do you know the way to San Jose? I'm sorry. Colorado with the Buffaloes. And he got his first big promotion named co-offensive coordinator in 2018. After that, and the NFL called, in 2019, he took up the job of assistant offensive line coach for the Indianapolis Colts, and promoted in 21 to tight ends coach, and stayed there for 2 years, and then was hired by Arizona and coached the offensive line 23 and 24. Running game. Schottenheimer steps in the Cowboys head coach already with a reputation for preferring a strong run game. Yeah, we need balance, y'all. We need balance. He said during his press conference that he was proud of teams leading the NFL in rushing twice while he was a coordinator, which is true with, I believe, with the Jets, because they had Mark Sanchez. They had the Sanchez. Remember, he was offensive coordinator and got Sanchez to the AFC Championship game twice. Now, they did also have great defensive play, of course, because of Rex Ryan. But be that as it may, he was still the offense. Caton Adams' hiring seems to confirm that the football running will be a priority in Dallas. In 24, Arizona finished 7th in NFL in rushing yards with 2,451. People, that's almost 1,000 yards more than we did. Not quite 1,000. Okay, 750. The previous season, the Cardinals were 4th in rushing with 2,365 yards. Yeah. 139 yards a game and 144. Yeah, some of the games early in the season last year, we were under 70. We were literally half of what they did. Integrity theory. Now, is Adams' run-heavy background expected to impact the Cowboys' first-round draft pick, number 12 overall? This is yet to be seen, but some of the social media have a theory. There's a certain running back from Boise State who could be available should he get to the number 12. Okay, what? There's a certain running back. We didn't get, okay, Caton Adams. Why are they putting that? The draft is over. We didn't get that guy. Caton was an offensive lineman at Boise State, where he was part of WAC championships. He graduated in 2004, converted as assistant in the Broncos. Okay, all right. I still don't know what that had to do with anything. Meat and potatoes kind of coach. Adams, 41, was born and grew up in Sacramento. He was brought on by the Cardinals. Adams is described as a grinder, and he was very undersized O-lineman at 5'10", and he was second-team All-WAC as a senior and an old college coach. He'll bring the meat and potatoes. Off the field, though, he's a girl dad 3 times over. He and his wife, Stefani, have 3 daughters, Myra, Harper, and Emmy. Okay, that's a little taste of Caton Adams. He's a meat and potatoes guy. He was undersized, but still played bigger than his size, okay? He had a big heart. And he definitely has shown that he can run the ball with the Arizona Cardinals, even without having a great passing attack. So those are definitely positives that we have. So now as we're getting closer and closer, we saw the trigger being pulled for Jalen Ramsey to the Steelers. And to me, that's a move that basically says we're desperate. We've got to do something this year right now, because the moves they've made are definitely not for the long term. You start looking at some of the ages of the players, specifically Aaron Rodgers. This is not a team that's built for the next 3 or 4 years. I think the Cowboys, with what they've done with going much, much younger, are setting up opening of the window. Although you got to be careful when you open the window, because sometimes you get birds that fly in. You do. And the mosquitoes come out too, the gnats get in, the flies. So you got to be careful with the window. But this opens the window for several years. And I look at it as the Cowboys look at it and say, we got Dak Prescott for another 2 years before we have an out. Let's do what we can to open up this window. Let's get younger. Let's get draft picks. Let's start trying to stack up capital and players so we can try and make a run. Maybe it's not this year. Maybe this year is this is the feeling in process for Brian Schottenheimer. And next year, you hopefully are able to take an even bigger step. So I want to go through and dealing with the Steelers and the Aaron Rodgers situation. Let's go to the tape.
Of NBA free agency, but the Pittsburgh Steelers stole the headlines across the sports landscape when they made one trade with a big trade with the Dolphins, acquiring 3-time All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey and tight end Jonnu Smith for 3-time All-Pro safety Micah Fitzpatrick.
My side camera's not working today.
And then just hours later, our Adam Schefter dropped this nugget. In recent weeks, multiple teams have been discussing whether they can trade for T.J. Watt. You can just sign J.J., he's retired, who skipped the team's most recent minicamp. Watt is unhappy with his contract situation, and sources believe outside team interest is likely to increase given yesterday's trade. A lot of reaction pouring into this. Our own Dan Orlovsky summed it up best when he tweeted, "What is going on?" with no punctuation or anything. I don't know. I mean, Dan could be like in line at Disney and like it's not moving and we don't know. But let's assume that he was talking about everything the Steelers were up to yesterday and Adam reporting that. We have Jeremy Fowler here. Jeremy, what is going on in Pittsburgh?
Dan, I'm trying to make sense of this right now. I actually just got off the phone, talked to some sources about this. And for the Steelers, this was a simple move. They feel like they have a never-ending quest to try to get a Super Bowl roster together, even if it's not perfect. Baltimore's getting better around them. The Cincinnati Bengals offense is getting better. So they figured Jalen Ramsey was a clear upgrade, that they have a guy who can play inside, traditional cornerback. He can play safety. But to them, this is not, the source I just talked to actually scoffed at the all-in notion. They said, we do this every year. This is just what we need to do to try to surround not only the team with the winner, but Aaron Rodgers. They feel like they have the best quarterback outlook they've had in 5 years. They have a capable option. They are trying to maximize it now. And as for the T.J. Watt situation, I was told this is sort of the cost of doing business. These negotiations get tricky. They get sticky. They're hard to go through. The Steelers remain optimistic that they can try to reach a deal with Watt at some point. That would be the goal. Executives I've talked to with some other teams do not expect Watt to be traded. It is interesting. Teams are talking about this, what it would take to potentially acquire him, but there's not a lot of feeling or sense around the league I get that he's going to be moved.
Sure. I mean, as long as he's unsigned and seemingly unhappy, I'm sure there'll be plenty of conversations in front offices about, hey, do you guys think we could possibly do this? But as of now, it seems like he'll be in Pittsburgh and they'll probably get him signed. In terms of the trade that went down yesterday and the sort of overhaul of the secondary, bringing in the new tight end, EJ, what did you think about the Steelers' moves?
Well, Gratz, I love the move, and I think you address a lot of areas to try to help your roster get better. And look, this is a maximization of 2025, at least at this point in the offseason. You bring in a Jalen Ramsey who can play safety, he can play nickel, he can play outside corner. You link in with guys like Darius Slay, who just won the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. You also got Joey Porter Jr., who's playing really well as a young corner. And you got to think about the receivers that they're going to have to cover in their division. You think about Jamar Chase, you think about T. Higgins, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Jerry Jeudy with Cleveland. So many vaunted receivers and receiving cores that you want to have a really good secondary with. And the addition of Jonnu Smith was fantastic. When you think about Aaron Rodgers, this point in his career, guys, if you play a lot of 12 personnel, which is one running back, two tight ends, two receivers, you're able to help protect Aaron Rodgers and keep him upright because you got two tight ends inside. But also, Jonnu Smith is a guy who can play tight end, but he's really a receiver. So you're almost getting 12 personnel, but 11 personnel principles with his type of speed and his ability. And look, I work out at the same gym as Jonnu Smith. This guy's been working his tail off the entire offseason. So I was really happy to see him get rewarded, obviously, with a new move now going to Pittsburgh. And I guarantee you, Arthur Smith is going to feature him in this offense. You think back when Arthur Smith was the offensive coordinator with the Tennessee Titans, that's where Jonnu Smith had a lot of success earlier in his career as well. So it all makes a ton of sense for the Steelers, and I think it makes sense for the Dolphins too.
What do you think, D-Wood?
If this was 3 years ago, I would be much more excited, to be honest with you. Listen, if you look at the totality of all the moves that the Pittsburgh Steelers have made, quite honestly, they've gotten older at a lot of the critical positions that's required to win big-time football games. You got a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Darius Slay's like the second oldest cornerback in the National Football League.
Wow.
He's in his mid-30s.
What are they doing?
36. T.J. Watt is, very good player. He's 30. Jalen Ramsey's 30. All of these guys, big-name guys, but they're up there in age. And a 17-game slate, if you wanted to make a run, the number one thing that you got to deal with is health. Can these guys stay healthy enough to make a run for the Pittsburgh Steelers? I'm highly skeptical of that playing itself out.
And Jeremy, you mentioned like your Steelers people saying we do this every year. That graphic we just showed, I mean, that's a lot of turnover in one offseason for this organization. It feels different. Does it not feel different to you as somebody who covered them for a long time and is kind of used to how they do business?
Yeah, from the outside, Dan, it does look a little bit like a panic move. But when I talk to people and ask them about that, I was told like they try to treat it on a case-by-case basis, they feel like these are just simply upgrades and that these guys can hold up. Jalen Ramsey's 30 years old. Steelers feel like he has a lot of juice. He's not playing like an old player. Jonnu Smith was one of the best yards after catch players in the entire league last year. So they feel like he's going to get Aaron Rodgers easy yards. When they trade DK Metcalf and replace him with George Pickens, moving him to Dallas, they feel like that's better for the locker room too, not only from an ability standpoint. So they feel like they've gotten better, but it's not going to last. This is not a 2026 conversation. This is 2025, and it does feel very boom or bust for a team that never rebuilds and always tries to hang in there, but sort of stuck living in the middle right now in that 9 or 10 win range. They're trying to get over that hump.
If you bring in a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, and I remember having some conversations with people in that building, and they were patient with Aaron Rodgers. They said, look, we don't mind going through the draft and having Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders, all these guys available, but they end up going with Will Howard, who I think is more of a developmental quarterback, and it's a good plan because now you bring in Aaron Rodgers. So sure, there are abilities where this doesn't go right, but ultimately, if I'm the Steelers, you got to entice a guy like Aaron Rodgers to want to, hey, come and join your football team. And why?
I'm going to end it there. But are you sure that Aaron Rodgers is your answer? Sorry. You know, Aaron Rodgers, even his last MVP season, number 1 seed, they lost to San Francisco that we beat up the week before, and they had 9 points. And you look at the track record since that time, Aaron Rodgers is not that guy anymore. It'll be interesting to see how it all goes and things. But as always, I appreciate you guys, and I got to get out of here. I've got a lot of work between now and training camp, trying to get all the work done on all the properties that need to get maintenance done, so that way I can focus in solely on the Dallas Cowboys. I'm Mark Holmes, and I got to get out of here.
I can't stand it anymore. I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Stewardess, please let me handle this.
I've got to get out.
Calm down. Now get back to your seat. I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Doctor, you're wanted on the phone. Everything's going to be all right. Please.
Sister, please, I'll handle this.
Yourself.